This is the area where the fossil trip is going to, where we're going to be. And here's a road that goes this way along the lake shore. And we'll be right in here, looking at the lake. And then we'll drive back this way, and then come back down here, and go in here to see the lake from there. Now in through here, over here, there is a fault. The San Andreas Fault comes through here. And I'm going to go over here, or up here, and then over here. And this road in here, from here there's a road, you can't see it right now, but it goes through a box canyon that goes right through the center of the fault. Now the lake is down here, out of the picture, but here's Mecca, right over. Mecca is right here, right there, and here's the road that goes Route 66th Avenue, and it goes out here, and it continues on up into what is called Box Canyon Road. And this is about how far I went. And then there's a road that comes off here. It's called Painted Canyon. Right there is a Painted Canyon Road that goes off this way. But I continued on through here, through Box Canyon. Now Mecca is right here. You're seeing a satellite view now. And you travel out this road, it goes to Box Canyon. Here we're going into Box Canyon from here. Box Canyon Road. You can see where lots of water came down here, funneled into this canyon. And there's the Box Canyon Road. We can see the fault in here. And here's the Salton Sea, that we were on each side of it, or will be. And the road that goes through this area, through the fault. Here's Wyoming, and the water that made the Grand Canyon in Arizona came all the way down through here, and then it flooded through this area and came clear down here to the Salton Sea right there, which flooded into this area, the Gulf of Mexico. There's a lot of rocks here, but in most places it's sedimentary, but this is volcanic rock. It contains a lot of mica in it. You can see it sparkling. These rocks. So some are volcanic and some are sedimentary, like in here, sedimentary. You can see where it cracked here and slid. There's kind of a slickened side here, and it's metamorphic. The mica indicates that it's metamorphic. Just over from that, we get this here, which is a mudstone. That's what this is. It's like an unconsolidated shale. This is probably all unconsolidated shale, but you notice it's pretty level. There hasn't been any uplifting in it. There's also a lot of erosion up ahead. Now we're beginning to see some warping and I'll start over here. Now we're beginning to see some bending here in the strata and some faulting where it's not completely level. Now it was deposited level at one time, and then over here you see there's a lot of erosion. Now here you see some faulting. And over here. We're in the Box Canyon area of the Salton Sea. Here you can see where some of the strata has actually been bent, and for it to do that it has to be soft. It could not be consolidated into solid rock, even mudstone. Right now it's mudstone, and it would have cracked if it had bent after it dried out, like it is now. There you can see the faulting there. This is on the San Andreas Fault, which was very active during the time of the Pleistocene. Here you can see some layers of rock. You can see the rocks here in the matrix. And these are laid down in layers, very similar to many other places like in Riverside. And these rocks have been rounded due to grinding in this gravel, just like a polisher that you would use in lapidary. See, it's very smooth. But much of this material, though, is soft, as you can see. I can grind it up with my hands. Although some of it is pretty hard, though, but it's not as hard as the rock that you get in Mesozoic, where there's dinosaurs and things. That was during the pre-flood time or during the flood, those were formed. These were formed after the flood, during the time of Peleg's division, when the continents were divided. Now you can see the tilting here. Due to the faulting. Now you see this in the fossil record in other places, such as the Mesozoic or the dinosaur deposits. But these deposits never contain dinosaurs. They only contain, if they contain anything, it's mostly freshwater shells. Or it might even contain some mastodons or mammoths, something of that nature. All post-flood animals. About the time of Peleg's division and the Tower of Babel. This was an inland sea, and it flooded all the way from the Colorado River, which came all the way from Wyoming down into this area, down into the Gulf of Mexico. When the inland areas were inundated and still remained underwater for many years during the pluvial period and during those about 4,000 years ago. Here's some that is almost directly vertical. The Salton Sea is a shallow, saline, that means salt, endorheic rift lake. It was ripped open by the San Andreas Fault. It's directly on the San Andreas Fault, and it's spilled by from California, Imperial and Chochello valleys. The lake occupies the lowest elevations of the Salton Sink in the Colorado Desert of Imperial and Riverside counties in Southern California. Its surface is 234 feet below sea level. The deepest point of the sea is 5 feet higher than the lowest point in Death Valley. The sea is fed by the New Whitewater and Alamo rivers, as well as agricultural runoff, drainage systems, and creeks. For thousands of years, the Colorado has flowed into it during the Pleistocene and possibly back into the Pliocene, into the Imperial Valley, and it is called the Imperial Formation, and deposited soil, creating fertile farmland, building up the terrain, and constantly changing the course of the river. And of course it changes from a freshwater lake to a saline lake to a dry lake, and it's very similar to lakes left behind during the flood all over the deserts all over the world. But this one is still lasting into our day today, like few lakes have. For the last thousands of years, the river has flowed into the valley and out of the valley, alternately creating a freshwater lake, and then increasingly salty lake, and then a dry desert basin, depending on river flows and the balance between inflow and evaporation loss. Water flows into it, but does not flow out of it. The cycle of filling has been about every 400 to 500 years and has repeated itself many times. The latest natural cycle occurred about between 16 and 1700, as remembered by American natives who talked with the first European settlers, and they built fish traps, which still exist in many locations, and the Native Americans evidently moved the traps depending upon the cycle of the shoreline of the lake in order to trap fish. This is a picture of one of the fish traps. It's a circle that the Indians dug into the ground starting about 3,000 years ago up to the present. And they would chase, when the water level was up here, they would chase the fish into these and then catch them. Now, I went to one of these, and I found it along the road maybe 20 years ago. That was probably about 30 years ago. But when I found this, I found a pottery sherd from the Indians had left behind, and I also found in the sand not this one, but in the sand of the one I found, there were clams about 2-3 inches long and silvery, and their valves were together, held together in the loose sand for hundreds of years. Now this lake actually came all the way up here, and these fish traps are up in here, up near Indio. The fish traps are up in here, because this lake came all the way up here. For about 3,000 years, water flooded through this area from the Grand Canyon into California, into Los Angeles, through the mountains here, creating all these boulders and sand. And here's the Salton Sea down here, which flowed down here all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. And a lot of these formations of fossils in here are from this, back at the time of what they call Miocene, is actually part of the Pleistocene and the Pliocene. They have got it misdated. These for thousands of years, this area was flooded and deposited fish, like up at Lompoc and in Anaheim Hills. And it creates boulders and gravel all through this area. And you can see where the water was. It goes clear up here into Palm Springs and Desert Hot Springs, and flowed through the mountains and came out Cajon Pass into this area, depositing the shale and also diatomite and sandstone, and also depositing mudstone and unconsolidated sand and gravel all through these mountains, all the way up past LA. And this area was also flooded the last time in the 16 and 1700s, and that was the same time that we had a tidal wave impact on the coast up north towards Oregon and Northern California. There was an earthquake and tidal wave, the Indians told the white man when he came into the area. Here's what the fault looks like from a distance. Looks a lot like it does in Moreno Valley and up through Ritchie Canyon. This is what the fault looks like from a distance, and we were in the fault zone. Here's the Salton Sea, what's left of it. Looks like there's some birds out there. This is a marina back there where the palm trees are, and a boat club. When the waters used to come up here, and this would be the beach. But you can see how it's gone down and down, different layers here. And here, this material here that you see on the ground, these are shells. What's left of shellfish. There's also some fish bones. I remember I found lots of fish skeletons right around the edge of the lake last time I was here, almost 40 or about 20 years ago. Here we are in a layer here. These are all dead fish when there used to be water up here. I heard some krakens back in town here in Mecca. They seem to be a desert bird. I've seen them in the desert before. They're also in Moreno Valley. Now we're getting down into some more recent here. Yeah, they appear to be barnacles. Fish bone. I didn't know that there were barnacles in freshwater. Looks like a sandpiper. And other kinds of seabirds. This is about as close as I can get because it's beginning to get very mucky here. Still got lots of water. And there's a seagull. I can hear it. There's some fish vertebra. And here's some barnacles on some fish bones. And there you can see the marina. The water probably came all the way up to the marina. There are still people there, but not very many. Now, we are on the eastern shore of the Salton Sea, what's actually left of an inland sea during the Pleistocene, which was all over the world at about that time. But you can see the fault over there, and it goes all the way up this valley. It's a North Shore Beach and Yacht Club. It's a very fertile area where they're growing all kinds of trees and grapes. Lots of farms here. Time ranches, and they have a different name for each area. They apparently own almost all the land out here for different types of farms in different areas. We've come a few miles now. We're past all those ranches and the lake is way up there. But still, you look at the ground here and it's fused together with salt. It's kind of crunchy. The surface is hard, but underneath it, it's soft. The surface is pretty hard, and I can taste the salt in it. And this is beyond the ranches. And there's the fault over there to the east. We're going to the west bank right now. There it is. Look at all the sand over here. We are now on the western shore. And there are lots of seabirds here. Seagulls, and I saw a pelican. But he got away before I got my camera out. One of them looks like a heron over there. He's standing all alone. Crunching under feet are the all the shells and barnacles mostly. They say you can see the strand line of the old lake on the mountains here, which was the level of the lake at one time. That's the pelican. There is some caliche on the rocks here, which forms around old lake beds. I think that's the strand line right right in here. You can see that line across there? That's the strand line of the old, well, it's not the oldest lake, but it's the more recent one. Because this area was flooded in, I think it was the late 1800s, early 19. I think you can see it right there too. See the line across that hill? See all the sand? And there's also a lot of farms here too. Probably date palms. This is the area where the fossil trip is going to, where we're going to be. And here's a road that goes this way along the lake shore. And we'll be right in here, looking at the lake. And then we'll drive back this way, and then come back down here, and go in here to see the lake from there. Now in through here, over here, there is a fault. The San Andreas Fault comes through here. And I'm going to go over here, or up here,